Here's a question for you. Did you do the 2-minute silence today, Remembrance Sunday, which is always the closest day, the closest Sunday to the 11th of November where the guns fell silent? I did. I do every year. And I remember the sacrifices made by the previous generations so we can carry that eternal flame of freedom with us to pass on to the next generation. I have probably 3 or 4 generations of my family who served in the military in one capacity or another, even in both world wars. Even round the corner from me, there's a war memorial where my surname adorns that memorial in both world wars. Sacrifices. I have got loads and loads of time for veterans, World War II veterans. I could sit down and listen to them for hours. I lived when I was a young boy in my probably early teens next to an old couple who lived in Rhodesia after the war, and they moved back to the UK, moved back to England and settled here because things in Rhodesia weren't really as they were. And the actual husband, they're probably long gone, so I'll name him. His name was Sid, and he was a mid-upper gunner on the Lancaster bombers. And I used to sneak next door to them, Connie and Sid, and I could sit and listen to Sid for hours talking about his wartime experiences on the aircraft and what happened. You know, he was even at D-Day, and he said they were flying effectively bombing run cover for what was going on, and his turret got shot up by a Messerschmitt, and you had crank handles in the turret where you could do everything manually, so flying by the seat of his pants, so to speak. And he had loads of fascinating stories like that. And the year that the film Memphis Belle came out, you remember that one with the old B-17s? He was so critical of that movie. He ripped it to shreds. He told me exactly what bomber crews wouldn't do, which was the majority of the behaviour on that film. It was quite comical, I remember. But I wanted to join the RAF when I was a kid, and I was even in the RAF recruiting office when I was 16, and I wanted to be a pilot. And I was told that you're not clever enough, Gifford. You know, you needed A-levels, you needed a degree. And I thought, well, they took Barda, didn't they? With no legs, but that was another time. I went and got the A-levels, but didn't manage to get a degree, and now I fly a taxi. But I always think about that generation before, and what really broke my heart the other day was this chap, 100-year-old war veteran, coming on the telly. I was disgusted at the British media rolling him out just to, use him as a propaganda piece. It was disgusting. But to hear him say that, what was the point in it all with the world that we live in now? Really, why did we do what we had to do? And that's really sad, isn't it? Because we've allowed this world, starting from the end of the war, to fall to pieces. There are those that say we actually lost the Second World War. We didn't win. It was the Soviets that won the Second World War, and to an extent America as well. I mean, you look at the Soviet point of view, how Europe was all carved up, and we had the advent of communism and everything else, and then we ended up with a Labour government in this country, and that was full of Fabians, and it's just gone to pot ever since. So what was it for? Was it worth it, I wonder? Interesting question. So the other thing as well, we wear a poppy every year to commemorate those that are lost, and you see the same argument every year. Why do we wear a poppy? And then you see the white poppies come out, and then we all have a bash. We all say, how dare you disrespect our glorious war dead? But, the biggest problem I have with a poppy, I wouldn't mind wearing one, but the biggest problem I have is the amount of money that the Royal British Legion have in their bank account. And then you look at the help they actually give veterans as opposed to the property they have, the salaries they have to pay and everything else. It doesn't make any sense, does it? So then can you really blame people for not wanting to wear a poppy? I know I don't, but I do remember. What can we do going forward? I mean, the country's going to hell in a handbasket. I want to mention the channel Absolutely Average, Russ, and I put a community post on my channel earlier this morning directing you to a video that I think you really must go and have a look at. It really shows you what's going on in this country, and I suppose through apathy, I suppose by getting beaten down, I suppose by forgetting who we really are, we've allowed all of this stuff to happen. It really is sickening to behold what this country's become. And then the likes of this gentleman here again, turning around on the telly and saying, what was it all for? Can you blame him? Now, when we're long gone, when we're dead and buried, it's going to be the turn of our kids. So do we pass on this mess to them? Or is it now our turn to try and do something about it? You see demonstrations all over the place. You see people waking up all over the place. You see people making comments all over the place about what's going on that shouldn't be. I suppose all we can do is educate. I suppose all we can do is raise awareness. I suppose all we can do is keep talking to our kids, tell them about history, and, you know, tell them that Anne Boleyn was actually white, not black, and try and make sure that this lot don't erase our proud history and make people realise that England is worth fighting for, make people realise that Scotland is worth fighting for, make people realise Wales is worth fighting for, and by God, make the Irish realise Ireland is worth fighting for. That's not only Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland as well. We have to remember who we are, because if we allow them up the top to criticise us and beat us down, then our countries are gone and lost forever. And we must always remember those that came before us, because it's in their name that we have to make sure that eternal flame of freedom is carried on for future generations. Well, that's my little bit to say on Remembrance Sunday. Thank you very much for listening. Please, as always, share my stuff, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you soon. Toodaloo.